The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Brook.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Paranormal Concept. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and I apologise for the false start, but I think over the Halloween period, some gremlins were still left in the system. I think that's what it was. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. I'm joined tonight by my lovely co-host, Kerry Greenway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello there, how are you?
I'm good.
Forgotten how to do your job after 3 weeks off, clearly.
No, nothing to do, nothing like that at all. You just let the gremlins in. That's what it was. While I was away, you asked the gremlin to keep an eye on the show.
My fault then, yeah?
Yeah, totally. But no, I cleared them all away quite happily. So yeah, we just had a bit of a false start. Never mind. We're back now. We're back and in full swing of everything. We're also joined tonight by Mark Pritchard. Hello, Mark.
Hello, guys. How you doing? Right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, really good.
Cool. Was you busy over the Halloween?
I was busy over the Halloween period. Yeah.
What exactly was it that you've been doing over the Halloween?
I've just been trying to get locations for.
I still think some of the gremlins are here. You know, this is all Kerry's fault.
Yeah, like Mark keeps running away from his mic. That's what we think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be something like that, I think. So, Mark, try and tell us, all,
Try and tell me,
how, in short bursts possibly, how you got into the paranormal.
I got into the paranormal,
Oh no!
It's so not going to work, is it, tonight?
No, I got into the paranormal. Gone. Yeah. I was like, what?
Okay, so Mark got into the paranormal. Then what? Oh dear, Mark, are you still here with us? No, I think it's possibly gone. Was Mike's given up, maybe?
Oh no!
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Come back to the other side of the room, Mark, where the mic is. Oh no. Well, okay. Well, what we'll do, we'll carry on.
Okay.
We'll talk about you, Kerry. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. Why not? I'll interview you, shall I?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll see. We will
what
see
would
if
you
we
like
can
to
get.
know?
How did you get into the paranormal?
Wow. Oh dear. Not that long ago. I'm not a baby in the field still, really.
Oh.
I haven't investigated. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was trying to write down all the locations that I've investigated, and it's not a particularly extensive list.
Yeah.
So I've actually only been investigating probably for about 2 years.
Okay.
Believe it or not. No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I've been researching for a lot longer, but in regards to actually getting out there and in the field, as it were,
so
only been about 2 years.
What drew you to it?
Well, obviously, I was working with crystals and minerals in the spiritual sense.
Yep.
And I wasn't interested in the healing side, and I'd already sort of put that out to spirit. that I wouldn't do healing. And then Kerry Ann, if you remember from Seventh Sanctum, I met Kerry Ann. Well, she put a post out on Facebook and said she was starting up a paranormal team. And I'd like watched most haunted and places like that. So I sort of thought, well, I quite fancy having a go at that. So that's sort of where I started. She was like, yeah, great, you work with crystals and minerals. And I was like, yeah. She would you like to do that in the paranormal field? And I was like, hell yeah. Let me cross over. And it was really from there that I started with her team. And so that's sort of where my journey started in regards to investigating. But I'd worked with crystals and minerals for a lot longer. But, bringing it into the field was an interesting crossover and has led me down a completely different journey to the one I was on. And it's a fascinating area.
How can we use crystals in the paranormal field then? What is it that is different?
Well, I mean, we all use things like pendulums and scrying mirrors and that sort of thing. But I work quite extensively with something called crystal gridding, which was a concept that's well known in the crystal field, but has not really come into the paranormal field. And basically, it's setting out, this is incredibly basic, setting out crystals in a geometrical pattern with a set intention. So when we took it into the field, the intention was to try and bridge the gap between the spiritual and the physical. So it enabled the spirits that were in the location to be able to use the energy of the crystal grid to actually come through easier. So that's the intention that we were setting when we first started. So when I first went out in the field, I sort of was working in quite naively, because I didn't know how this would work in that particular way. I've used it in many ways in regards to personal manifestation, in regards to intention. When we first started working in the field this way, it was a brand new field for me. It was like and then going into alleged haunted location. And I then realised that I could feel where it would be best to place the grids, and also the differences in crystals that you would be able to use in the grids for that location in a better way, that sort of thing. Journey, and a lot of that has actually been with Kerry Ann's team. Since then, I mean, obviously doing the radio has brought me in contact with so many different teams and so many different locations and so many different theories that it's evolved. That is taking it up a step. So I now look at earth energy lines and ley lines and geology and that kind of thing in a lot more different, more intense way than I'd looked at it when I very first started.
Okay. So do you think it improves the spirit energy?
Yes, I do. I do believe that. I can't prove it, but I do believe that. Only because we did an experiment very early, again, very in the early days. We went to the same location twice. And the first time we did it, I was working with my crystals, gridding and, doing my stuff. And then when we went back, I was told not to take any at all. We were going to do it purely as a normal ghost hunt, as it were.
Okay. And
the first time when we had crystals in the field, the energy of the location was a lot more intense. We had a lot more activity. We had an increase in things like hits on K2s, and spirit box sessions were good, and EVPs were good. When we went back the second time, it was flat as a pancake. Now, I can't prove that the crystals made the difference. It could just have been a good night, a flat night. Do you know what I mean? Because we've all done that. We've all been to locations and worked in exactly the same way and had great nights and flat nights. So I can't say the crystals had, but it just seems strange that whenever we used crystals in the field, we had some really interesting results and a more intense experience in regard to spirit communication than we had when we weren't using them. So, as I say, it's a ongoing project, I think is the expression. It's a field that I'm working in. It's something I do in the paranormal field, that I'm hoping to take to the next level as I go forward in the field. And I'm doing a lot of back research, looking at crystals and minerals and vibration and frequency and energy and stuff like that. and finding out to see if there are ways that we can prove it. So I'm looking at all sorts of different fields that I never thought, but then we do this in the paranormal field. You look at fields that you never thought you would get involved in a general research basis. But for me, on my crystal paranormal journey, it's definitely taken, that's my focus. That's where I'm heading towards, because I'm a great believer of stone tape theory. I know it started off just as a theory. Somebody brought it out just as a possibility, but I actually think that's got some credence to it. And I also think magnetic fields have a lot to do with that as well. But I'm not a scientist, so I'm grappling with concepts and ideas that my poor little brain sometimes has a meltdown over, because it feels a little advanced. And then linking that into the crystal field as well. I know it all links, but how it all links, I'm still struggling with. But that's where, as I say, that's a work in progress. It's something I'm working with. But I actually think that that's got a lot more to do with things alongside triggers from people on a psychological level as well. So I'm coming at it from sort of different angles. But crystals in themselves do have energy and can affect a person on an individual basis. That I know for a fact, having worked very closely with crystals for a long time. It's just how that relates to the paranormal field is where I'm sort of like trying to work.
Yeah. So when are you bringing out your first book?
Oh my God. Sometime early next year. No, I'm only joking. It is something that is in the plan of action, but I'm very careful. When I set my business up, one of the very first things I said is I want to be credible. I want to know the facts. I don't just want to say it does this and expect people to accept it face value. Yeah. I wanted to be able to back up what I said. And that is still something I find incredibly important for my integrity to this day. So I don't know, when a book is likely to appear, but it is something I plan on doing at some point.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Absolutely. I'll wait for the film to come out.
Oh my God, you've been waiting forever for that one. I keep saying I've got a face for radio, but definitely not for TV or film. Get some pretty person to actually, play my part in it. No, it'd probably be really boring. I spend a lot of time researching, reading books, talking to people, expanding my knowledge. That's without the research I do for like all the shows that I do. It sort of ends up a bit muddled sometimes. I mean, you should see my notebooks. I'm not organised at all. People think, oh, God, you must be so organised. No. My notebooks are like, on one page it'll be something to do with my business, another day it'll be something to do with the paranormal, another day it'll be something that I'm doing with a guest, another day it'll be something I'm doing with a thing. And they all get muddled in together. And then I've got about 20 stacked up that I'm trying to I will have to re-go through and pick out the bits that I've or I'll get an idea in the middle of the night. You know what it's like, Paul, you get an idea and then you just jot it down.
That's it.
And then come back to it at a later date. And I've got recipes for incense and all sorts going on in these notebooks, and they make no sense whatsoever to anybody that was to pick them up. But to me, that's how I work, you know. On a Sunday, quite often my kids go to a club, and where it's located, I can't get home very easily. So I go to the local pub and I sit there and I take loads of books and I have books around me, and they call me the scholar girl. And I sit there and it's like a family pub, Sunday lunchtime, loads of people coming in for their Sunday roast. And there's me sitting there with all my books, and the amount of people that have come up and said, we'll let you get on now, we're going. And I'm like, honestly, it's fine, don't worry. They must think this poor girl just goes to the pub to research. Yeah. But I get so much work done at that time, it's untrue. I find background noise or background babble actually quite good for me. I can seem to concentrate better than trying to work in a dead silent library or a dead silent environment. So That works quite well for me. And I like the pub, so.
Well, that's all that counts, really, isn't it, I suppose? But it's a shame you don't want to be in your own film, because I was going to get Johnny Depp to play me.
Oh, my God. Now, if you're talking
Yeah.
Johnny Depp, I'm all over
Well,
that.
I thought Johnny Depp, because he's like spitting image of me, really, isn't he?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Johnny Depp was playing your part in it, then I would definitely be in that film.
Oh dear.
Regardless.
Yeah. Oh dear. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
you've worked with me in the field, Paul.
I have.
You've seen how I work.
Like a blue ball, we really are.
And what, sorry?
A blue ball.
I buzz around, don't I?
Yeah, you do. You buzz and you're just bouncing off the walls and all sorts of things, yeah.
And my hands are going all the time. People go, God, you're so, like, you gesticulate so much. And it's not that so much. It's that I feel from my hands more than anywhere else. So, like, when I start picking up energy levels or spirit energy in a location, I'll actually feel it in my hands more than, like, people, mediums talk about they see it in their third eye, and that's where they're linking. That's not where I'm linking at all. I'm linking through my hands, and that's and I'll run around and I'll know when that energy has stopped, that energy field has stopped, and then I'll come in and then I'll hone it down, and that's where I start going, right, I know I need to do a grid or an experiment there, or, you know, that's where we need to be at this time, you know. And I mean, we were at, where was we? Was it Margate? Ramsgate.
Ramsgate Maritime Museum.
That's right, yeah. And I honed it down to the closest point I could get to where this energy was, and we had an amazing Ouija board session there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that was really good, really interesting, and what you picked up on was quite fascinating.
That's where I think I differ, because I will, if it's a larger location, I will do that in a whole location. Do you know what I mean? I'll be running around like a loony, and people are like, oh God, what's she doing now? But it's because I have to feel it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I can't just like go, well, the attic's supposed to be active, because I could go up in the attic and go, I don't actually, no, for me, this isn't particularly active. I'm not feeling it. Yeah. And then I'll go into a room, and then one goes, well, no one's had any activity there. And I'll go, yeah, but we need to do this here. We need to do this here. And then we'll get a really good experiment going or something, you know, so that's sort of how I work in the field.
I look forward to working with you at Kelvin Hatch then, because you'll be just running up and down the stairs.
I can't wait actually to do some of those bigger locations, and say when I write down the locations that I've done, which isn't many, mainly due to we were a small independent team. We never sold tickets to the public. So we were having to finance it all ourselves. And that was public indemnity insurance, that was all travel, all the location fees. So we were doing the affordable locations, or any location that we could get into that was free, as it were, you know, like little independents that didn't have big teams going in. And so I've not done some of the main locations that everyone talks about. And so my bucket list of locations is actually huge. Absolutely huge.
I bet.
I've heard so much about Kelvin Hatch. I'd love to do it. I have my own theories on it, listening to various people that have talked about it. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see it for myself, or feel it for myself.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
We're going there in April. I think it's. April
I know. I need to sort 2018 year diary out. Yeah. Because I'm getting booked up already. For next year, which is fantastic. I can't wait for next year. It's going to be an absolutely awesome year. Yeah. But it really is. And we, you know, I work for Trident Paranormal now. That's the team I work for, and I work as a host, and we do team events. So that's when we do the team events, that's when you can go out and literally do what you need to do. You know, like investigate how you would investigate. When I'm with the public as a host, I'm basically, I kind of see it as a guide. Yeah. To show them how to work with all the tech. Not that I'm a tech girl, as I've said many, many times.
And I've witnessed that.
Yeah, I think we've all witnessed that at various times. I can do it when I'm at home in the light, like when I'm at home.
Yeah.
I had your tech for a couple of weeks. I borrowed Paul's whole kit, and I had it out and I was playing with it. I knew what I was on with. I took it out into the field, couldn't work it in the dark with a torch. What's that all about? I just don't know. But
Hello, guys.
hey,
hey,
Mark's
Mark,
back with
I'm
us.
back. I really do apologise about this. My computer just absolutely crashed.
Oh, it's doing it again. Oh no!
It's just not happening, is it?
It's the gremlins left over from Halloween, I'm sure
it is. I think it is. It was exactly. It did this to me exactly the same time as when I came on with Alan Fox, whose radio show was the same thing.
We'll blame him. It's all his fault.
Let's blame
Okay,
Alan.
I've got to blame Alan, yeah.
Yeah, entirely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Bless him.
I do. Absolutely. So if you, let's see if it works. What sort of events do you do, Mark?
The events that I do, I've pretty much got one coming up at the end of this month on the 24th of November, and that's a place called the Black and White House Museum in Hereford. It's in the city centre.
Okay.
It's going to be a very, very good one, this one, because I actually met up with the actual historian chap there, a chap named Van Hall. Never ever actually let a paranormal into the place.
And you've gone. It was doing so well then.
I know. I had high hopes for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was going well then, and just dipped again.
Oh.
Because I've got my headphones on. It's not that I'm too far to the computer. Is that any better? Or
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it could be.
weird, or my speakers are just conflicting with the actual volume itself. I don't know.
Yeah, it might just be a fact that the properties for the microphone might be what's dipping down, because that's what happens to mine sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So, you might have to go into the settings and try and rectify that.
Yeah.
That's probably where you've got to go. Yeah. So. So what was you saying, Kerry? Oh, you was talking about your crystal grids. Is that something that you would like to experience, Mark?
Yeah, it would be something that sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? I try all forms of things to get some sort of paranormal activity. I did try for the first time the other day when I was at the Mansion House in Cardiff with automatic writing, and I found that was the first time that I did that, and that was very interesting. I got some good results from it. So yeah, I'm always up for something new.
Yeah, I've tried automatic handwriting, and I can actually do it without the planchette as well, which is quite interesting. What about you, Kerry? Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I tried it a little while ago. I interviewed a lady that was quite prolific, should we say, in regards to automatic writing. That was her first spiritual experience, was with automatic writing. And I find that whole subject really fascinating, because some of the information that comes out whilst you're doing something like that, once you're proficient at it, as in you've practiced it, because when you first start, it starts like a scribble.
Yeah.
It can look very childlike, but when you work with it quite a lot, you'll notice that it becomes clearer and words become clearer. And then you start looking at language, how things are said, and then you ask, information that comes through. And I find that subject completely fascinating.
Yeah, because you're channeling the spirit, I suppose, into your body or your arm. I assume the more you do it, the more open to it you become. A bit like the mediumship stuff, and actually seeing spirit when you're working on the events.
Yeah.
The more you work with the paranormal, the more open you come to it. So I would assume it would be something a bit similar.
I think so. I think it's like a tool. They'll use your hand and pen as a tool, and they need to practice that and learn that themselves. Spirit, this is,
Yeah.
So when they first start, it is very young, very childlike. But the more you allow that energy to work in that way with you, I mean, there are two schools of thought on this. This is like a psychological, a subconscious thing coming through, and you're actually doing the writing without even realizing it's coming from your subconscious, or it's spirit that's using the pen. But when you look at some of the examples of automatic writing, like, you have to look at the way it's written, because sometimes you're going to write stuff that you go, it doesn't sound like me. You know what I mean? Or where did that name come from? And that name's verified through the research, and you went in cold, so you wouldn't have known that name, and things like that. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I say, I interviewed Pamela Caddy the other week, and she started working with this and has actually gone on to do transmediumship readings in that way. And it was fascinating listening to somebody who's actually become very good at it. Like, she writes like whole essays while she's under that mindset with automatic writing. And
I was going to say, so she uses a ghostwriter.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, interesting. I shall have to listen back to that show.
Yeah, it was really interesting. She seemed very knowledgeable about using automatic writing in a way that I'd not heard someone speak about automatic writing before. I've seen it, I've tried it myself, but it was almost like I played with it. It's a bit like, we'll go out and use the Ouija board, but then when you speak to someone like Robert Murch, who works with them all the time, it adds another level to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you use the Ouija board on your events, Mark?
I do use the Ouija boards. Yeah, I've had some quite interesting results from actually using them, and strangely enough, a lot of the public ghost hunts that I go on, a lot of people are unsure. They don't really want to go on using the board. Now, I always say to them, they're 100% safe. There's nothing to worry about. But the actual time when I did it, I actually had a close family member come through, and the people that were on board with, I had 100% trust in it. And some of the messages that were coming through, it just blew my mind. It was just something that I just want to delve deeper and deeper into actually doing the actual Ouija boards sessions itself. So yeah, it was good. It was good for me anyway.
Yeah. What about you, Kerry? What do you think of the Ouija board in investigations?
I don't see it being a problem. I think there's a fear factor linked to Ouija boards, mainly media driven.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to open properly, close properly, have the board protected properly. And when you put like those boundaries in place, then there's no reason why you can't use it as an effective tool, in the same as you would use a pendulum or spirit box or anything like that. I personally have no problem with Ouija boards at all.
And that's it. No, I agree totally. I mean, you've seen me use the Ouija board, and I think as long as you're confident and in control of that board, then there's nothing that's gonna, like in the movies, come through and beat you all up and stuff. It's not.
No, I think a lot of fear comes from it's one of the things that kids kind of play around with at quite a young age. I mean, I remember first playing around with a Ouija board when I was probably, about 12, 13. And I know that people were pushing the planchette. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even, I know they were. Looking back, at the time, I was scared absolutely witless. Had to think of an alternative word there. But because of that experience, I can understand why people would be scared of it. If they played around with it as a youngster, and they've had their friends, try and scare them. I mean, when I was like that age, it actually came through Kill Kerry Tonight. And I was round a friend's house and I had to go home on my own on my bike at that age. It's quite a few years ago.
Only three. Come on, Kerry. Be honest.
I know. I keep saying I'm 21, but people just aren't believing me these days. I don't understand it.
No.
And but it was quite a few years ago when I was younger. So you just got on your bike and got home in the dark. It wasn't a problem. And I was scared. I was really scared right on that ride home. Do you know what I mean? On my little bike. I don't think I've ever biked so quick in my life. Yeah. But coming forward in life and knowing the topic about the paranormal and reading a lot and stuff like that, you readdress it. You readdress it in your head and you know what you're doing. And obviously I work energetically and spiritually, so it doesn't have that fear factor for me that it did have when I was like that age. If I hadn't have gone down the route that I've gone in my life, that mindset of, oh my God, I remember that time when I was playing on the Ouija board and it told me I was going to die that night, probably would be set. And then if I'd watched any movies, that would just reinforce that perception of the Ouija board.
But then surely if it told you was going to die that night and now you're over 21, surely that makes you realise that it is a load of rubbish.
Well, obviously.
Well, not obviously a load of rubbish, but that particular,
incident, was a load of rubbish. Yeah, I mean, I have a huge amount of common sense. I think that helps in the paranormal field. Don't you agree,
it does.
Mark?
Oh, yes, definitely,
yeah. Common sense, I think, is lacking sometimes.
Very much so.
But, I think that just reinforces that about the Ouija for a lot of people. So when you get, the public come onto events and they're scared of it, you're like, why are you actually scared of this?
Yeah.
Because let's have a look at that. And then once you've explained things to them and you sort of talk to people about it and stuff like that, then you see almost like the fear factor coming down. Go on then, let's have a go,
That's it, and then they have a go and they go, well, what was all that about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I went to Shrewsbury Prison and we'd done a ghost box session. And this lady, she expected it to be a lot like what you would see on TV. But because she found it quite a real experience, she was actually crying her eyes out and she had to be led away from the area. Sometimes, a Ouija board session is a lot less dangerous than what people think. And I personally think the human pendulum and the automatic handwriting is a little bit more dangerous than the board.
Because I can understand that. I can understand why you think that.
Yeah, you're asking the spirit to take over your whole body in the effect of the human pendulum or something. You're still asking that spirit to come into your personal space, where on the board you're not.
You're asking them just to affect their planchette.
The planchette, yeah. So whether they're got their finger in the middle when they're moving it about, or in the case of a glass, they've formed their energy inside the glass, for example. They're not actually touching you physically, where in a human pendulum they are, because they're that much closer. I think that's, some of those experiments are a lot more dangerous, but handled in the right way, I think that they're all fine. We give our guests the paranormal investigator experience, so we teach them how to use the equipment, and then they go off and use it. So they get that experience, even if there's nothing experienced paranormally that way that night, then they've still got that experience to go home with, and it sort of set them on the right path to be paranormal investigators.
I think public events, I don't know what you think, Mark, but I think if you're taking the public out, they want a bit of the TV, so they want to play with the gadgets that they see that the stars that they watch and follow are playing with. So they want to look at the gadgets. You show them some of the table tipping or the glass divination or pendulum work or whatever, And it's about teaching them what these tools do, in the field. I don't know what you think, Mark.
Yeah. Of course, it's very important that they actually come to these events, and to know that it's 100% genuine in what we're trying to get across to them. I think it's very, very, very important. It was like an event that I was at just last weekend at the Mansion House in Cardiff. The amount of skeptics that were there on the night actually left, and they actually questioned it, to start to believe, because they had so much experience, with our group at the time, especially with the Ouija board and the automatic lighting and some of the devices that they were using. I hope that they actually left thinking, this is pretty good. And I think it's very important at public events that you give them that kind of choice. Do you know what I mean?
I do love it when you get skeptics go to a paranormal event and they're like, yeah, nothing's going to get me. Nothing scary is going to happen because it's all rubbish. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, okay, I've experienced a ghost. I believe. And they leave like that. That is absolutely amazing. I had that done at Fort Amherst. It was almost like the spirits there heard what they were saying and thought, you know what, we'll teach you a lesson. And off they went. It was, you couldn't write and make this stuff up. It was so funny. It only took them 10 minutes to change their mind.
10 minutes, bless. But I also like to, I did a ghost walk recently at Hockley Woods. And I say notoriously bad at tech when I'm actually out in the field. It's crazy. It must be a mental block that I've put there. I don't know. But I ended up working or teaching them, like working spiritually all night, using like Ouija board, using pendulums, using human pendulums, doing those kind of experiments whilst on this walk, because also you can't carry a lot of tech with you. And they got just as much out of that experience as they would have if we'd sat there with K2s or spirit boxes or, that sort of thing. And as I say, it was fascinating when you start talking to people and you start saying, these are the two sides of thought. It's either this, or it could be this, or it could be this. And it actually, you can see the spark of interest increase in them, because it gets them thinking about, is it actually my fear that's driving this? Or is this, is this something that I'm affecting? Or, and actually show them a different way of looking at the paranormal. I find that side of it completely fascinating. And they're gagging to come back for more, at bigger and better locations or, indoor locations rather than external. It was a fantastic evening and everybody was really into it. And I love that kind of event.
Yeah. I went to I think it was a theatre in Margate, the Royal Theatre, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
And when I was in there, we had all the teams go off on their specific areas. So I took the opportunity to go and sit in the auditorium. And I sat in one particular chair right at the front, and I heard the double doors go as if someone walked through them, and footsteps along the back of the auditorium.
Oh, wow.
And I heard a seat go down. So I went and had a look, and there was no one there. I couldn't find any seats that had gone down. Absolutely nothing like that at all. So I really don't know what that was. Everyone was accounted for. So, was it my imagination? No, it definitely wasn't. Because I could... It was very distinctive. But no, I don't know to this day what that was. It was interesting, to say the least. Yeah. Have you had any experiences like that, Mark?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. When we did the Mansion House just a few days ago, I was actually, because I do a lot of night vision camera work.
Yeah.
And we're in one of the, because basically the Mansion House is pretty much like a hotel. Have you ever been there?
I haven't. No.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. It's absolutely, the place is completely grand. It's brilliant. There's all kinds of chandeliers. I think they've had a couple of people stay, like Prince Charles. The singer Tom Jones has stayed there.
Wow.
So anyway, we were in one of these rooms, and I was filming the mirror. For some reason, I just felt as though there was something there. There was something. I pointed the night vision camera on this mirror.
So was you trying to do some scrying?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were doing that obviously later on in the night, and the scrying was there, but you just saw this black shadow go from left to right, and I'm sure that I've actually got it on my video. I haven't gone through the video yet, but it looks like a shadow, and it wasn't through one of the windows, and there wasn't any cars outside, and it was myself and the lady that was with me, the two sat in the front at the time. It looked at it, and somebody walked past the mirror. And I think that was quite good for me to review that over the next couple of days, see if I can but for me, it's not anything.
It certainly is interesting, though.
Yeah, it's getting that proof, you know. I'm always trying to find out what the answer is, because I've had so many experiences in the past. I just find it totally fascinating. It's brilliant.
So do you get any second opinions when you go and capture something that you can't explain?
There's obviously a few more of my videos. I've actually got quite a few EVPs as well, especially from the prisons, Gloucester Prison. We've had a few audio things, but I've never had a second opinion or had specialists actually look into this. But I've got quite a highly sensitive volume thing on my cameras that I use, so it'll be quite interesting to see what they think, see if they can, agree with me if I've actually caught anything paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to Shrewsbury Prison, although we didn't really record any particular sounds or anything, again, we had all guests were put into the cells, and I was playing the part of a prison guard. We thought we'd do a bit of role play to see whether the spirits would interact.
Yeah.
And I shut all the guests in the rooms, and then I pretended to radio up saying like prison guard or prison officer needs assistance at cell 24. And as I done that, I heard two sets of footsteps running down the metal concourse a bit.
Okay.
Which was really interesting, but I mean, we didn't catch that on a voice record or anything. It was just so that we could experience that. And that we got happening a couple of times. We also got shadow people as well, in the segregation area of the men's wing. Again, it was quite interesting because all the other groups experienced it. But we don't get the groups talking to each other until the end of the night.
Okay, that's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so, we do that, like an initial debrief at the end of the night, and yeah, all four groups all experience the same thing at that area. And then about a week later, Most Haunted did it, and conveniently got the same stuff we did.
Yeah.
It was interesting though, and hopefully, I would like to think that part of that show that Most Haunted done was genuine, but I don't know.
Yeah,
but I got to experience it before them.
Yeah.
So I know that it does go on.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was like the whole reason I decided to set up a paranormal team in the first place, to experience stuff for myself. I wasn't really into sharing my footage or anything like that, but obviously as time's gone on and I've learned more and more, I've become a paranormal researcher, investigator, as opposed to a ghost hunter. So I'm sort of gone down that path.
It's really good.
And I enjoyed talking, obviously, about the paranormal and sharing my experience with others. And yeah, it's the way to go, I think.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think, it's all about that, isn't it? Talking to people, expanding your mind, finding different things and theories and, seeing how they work for yourself when you're out in the field. And sometimes they'll work for you and sometimes they won't work for you. and it's finding about what works for you and your team. And, you know, sometimes our close-knit teams have better results than teams that come and go with different people.
Yeah.
I think that's quite integral to it.
Absolutely. I do think as well, I mean, I don't know if Mark agree. When you go out with a good group of people and they're all down to earth, they enjoy what they do, you get more experiences happening with that group than you would a group of skeptics.
Oh yes, that's definitely true. I find that if there's a good energy, within the people that you're with, that's when things can start. It only takes one person, that comes along and goes, "Oh, this is all a load of trouble." And if they get that mindset, then there are times it's happened to me when I've been out with some groups, and nothing happens. You're totally right. If there's a good energy base between everyone that's there and that's involved, then I think you get good results.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be quite hard work to get that certain group in that mindset to start opening up and working with spirit. It can be quite difficult sometimes. So you've got to pick the right hosts, I think. That's quite important as well. Pick the right hosts for that group.
Yeah, I think that's quite integral to it.
Yeah. So,
pulling people together and recognising strengths within the guests that you've got on there. And, if there's no point working in a spiritual way with a group that is completely shut down to spiritual way of working. If they want to sit there and work with tech all night, then that's what they want to do. And when you start allowing people to work in the way that they wish to work, they then become open to more ideas, and then you might be able to introduce something more different into the experience for them that they've not experienced before. It's about judging a group, and not all teams get that when they have guests on. If you're a closed-knit group, it's kind of easier because you know the strengths of your team, you know who likes doing what and how they work and what not. But that's the difference between a small knit team and an event, effectively.
Yeah. Is it just ghost hunts that you do, Mark, or do you try and do like UFO searches and things like that? Try and encompass the whole of the paranormal.
No, it's just mainly the paranormal itself. Because I experienced it at such a young age, because I used to live in an old cottage based in Worcester, and I'll tell you the story because it's quite an interesting one. I remember it as much as it happened like yesterday. That I was asleep in bed at the time. It was a very old cottage that we used to live at, which was over 100 years old. And I remember being awake, and then I just heard this lady's faint voice saying "Lady Jane," and it was very silent at the first. And then I just thought, am I hearing this? And then it started to get louder and louder as if it was coming up the stairs, because we used to have a corridor on the stairs where the cottage was. Okay. And I could hear this lady's voice getting nearer and nearer to me. And since that happened, that happened when I was about 11, 12 years old, I've just been absolutely fascinated in the paranormal. I've just been blown away by the things that I've experienced in the past. There's actual old railway bridges that I've been to. I've heard horses, who's, carriages and stuff like that with friends that I've been with, and we've actually experienced it as well. So it's just, it's just trying to get that answer, just trying to get that. Is there ghost out there? Is there spirit out there? I'm a strong believer that there is. There is something out there.
So would you say then that you're have you got the gift of being able to see spirit, or is it just that was an experience you had once?
Yeah, it's just the kind of experience that I've actually had. I mean, when I go to these events, I don't actually get feelings of actually before I go into the property that there is things going on here and stuff. I actually get a good feeling that the places are pretty good.
Yeah.
There's many. I mean, there's Condover Hall. I don't know if you've been there in Shrewsbury.
No, I haven't. No.
Condover Hall is a very, very good local. That was very active when we went there.
apparently a butler that used to be there was accidentally murdered, and I saw, I heard doors slamming, door handles moving, and footsteps at this location. It's probably one of the best locations that I was on last year. So
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing, Paul. It's just I'm just so fascinated with all kinds of things that are paranormal. I'm just it's just brilliant.
Well, that's it. I think in the paranormal, when it starts becoming a chore, I think that's the day that you need to sort of step back. But I mean, at the moment, I can hear in your voice that you've got a real passion for it.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I just love everything paranormal. But the day that it becomes a chore is like the day that I need to think, well, okay, maybe I need to give up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, never, because
No.
it is amazing. And
but I think that is with most things. I think even in your day job, I think the day you wake up and you think, oh God, can I be bothered?
Yeah.
I think is the day you start needing to look at what you need to change. And if that's walking away for a while, then that's walking away for a while. Do you know what I mean? And then coming or approaching it from a different angle,
Very
possibly.
Much so.
So, but no, I agree with that. I think the day it becomes a chore is the day that you should hang your K2 up on the coat hook and have a rest, basically, from it.
Yeah, I must admit, I do tend to do that sometimes. Just have a complete break for about a week.
Just a week.
Yeah, just a week, and then you get back into it, and it's just as good as it's always been.
Yeah,
and I think
I know people seem to dip in and out. Like you'll see some people be really intense for quite a while, and then need to take that step back and try and get their head around or work new theories or understand some of the experiences they've had for themselves, and then you'll see them go back into the field once they feel possibly that they've got a handle on it. I don't know, but it's definitely addictive.
It is.
Yeah.
I
Is
do.
it okay if I ask you guys a question as well?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys feel the same as well, but locations are starting to get really hard to get now, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be really difficult to get hold of. Sometimes it does take a bit of convincing to let a location in, to let you into a location. But I tend to, for this year, 2018, we're going to go big. So we've booked places like Warwick Castle, Shepton Mallet Prison. I think we're going to go back to Shrewsbury Prison as well this year, next year. So we're going to go and do some of the bigger locations. But last year we picked quite a lot of small locations, and locations that had never been done. And we found it really quite hard to sell those on to other people.
Yeah.
So we've tried to change tack this year, and go for some of the bigger places. But there are some small locations that don't get done very often that I still want to do. There's one in Rochester, on the actual river. It's called Upnor Castle. They want to charge us £800 for the night, and they want it all up front. But I can't afford to pay out that all in one go. Yeah. So we've held off. But as soon as we're in a position where we can, we're going to book it. Whether it be for a staff event or something, I don't know yet. But that's sort of where we're going to go with that one. We're going to wait for a little while. But I think some of the locations out there as well charge so much money.
They do,
that they don't. I can't understand how they can justify that much money overnight either. Because you're not essentially using as much electricity as they would during the day.
That's right. Yeah,
and you're sitting in the dark. You only want one or two members of staff there.
Yeah.
Ideally, none of them, but not many locations let you have it and just chuck you the key. So I really don't understand how some of those locations can justify it. But then equally, you get people again jumping on the bandwagon and having a go at the event companies because they're charging like £60-70 a ticket, when actually it's dictated by the location.
Yeah.
You know, so we sort of get it both sides really.
I think it's a real shame when a small location charges a lot of money for their location, because it prices out the small teams.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. And the massive location, the big locations that are probably on most people's bucket lists, you can't afford just doing it as a small team. You have to, go with an events organised team. Yeah. And, that's where you have to pick your events company incredibly carefully, that will allow you to work as your small team within their investigation and allow you to do what you want to do within their investigation. And not many, I don't know of many, that would necessarily allow that, because they're set up as a specific event. They know how they want their event run. They know what they're going to do. They know they're incorporating everybody's needs, not just this small team's needs. Yeah. But some of these massive locations have got the scope to allow smaller teams to come in and work how they want to kind of do their thing, because they're so big.
Yeah. I mean, we tried to do it a few times at, where was it? We had another team join us for Fort Amherst. And we said to them, you can come and do your own stuff. We'll leave you to it. Do what you like. But we'll allocate you 3 areas, because that's the 3 areas we were doing with the public as well. And I said, you've got an hour and a half in each area. You can do what you like, but as long as you just move along with the other teams, you can do that. Which seems to be quite a good idea, because obviously I'll let them get on with what they want to do.
It's a good compromise.
It is, and I try and do that, and I do encourage any paranormal team to come out with Trident. We even offer them a discount, obviously depending on how many people in their team. Obviously, the more people they got, the more bigger discount we offer. But we try and do our best to encourage that. But not many teams take us up on it, because, as you said, there are teams out there that won't allow you to do it. So it does take a bit of convincing.
Yeah, it's that opening of that communication, and don't be scared to approach event companies that have got big locations. If you're a small team, it would be ideal, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be ideal to hire Warwick Castle as a small team and just do it exactly how you wanted to? But the cost, for example, the cost of that is going to be extortionate for a small team.
Yeah, very much so. And I do. There are some places, and I know Kelvin Hatch allowed us to do it as well. They gave us a free night. We done our event in there, and we could actually capture something on video that we wanted to go back and investigate. Wow. So we said to the guy that runs it, can we come back on a Monday, and have the building for free? And he said, yeah, come, go for it.
Oh, wow, that's good.
And he allowed us. I mean, we only had 4 members of the team there. But he was quite happy to let us in for nothing and do our investigation and leave. So there are locations as well that will do that for small teams. But the moment you mention events or any kind of public events, selling tickets and stuff, that's when they're like, well, okay, ka-ching, we'll cash in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is a big business, though.
It is. There are locations as well that offer a huge discount for private investigations as well. So that's something else that they could approach and say, like for example, the big prisons. Although they charge what, $1,000, $1,500, if that. If you was to say you just want it for a small paranormal investigation, maybe just one of the buildings, if it's a massive place, that they might be willing to let you have that. So always ask.
What's the old saying? Don't be afraid to ask, because you never know what the answer will be.
Yep. If you don't ask, you don't get.
What's the worst that can be said? No.
Exactly.
If they say no, you go, okay, fine, thanks very much, move on. They
Yeah.
may well say yes. You just don't know.
Exactly. And on that note, we've actually come to the end of the show. How quick has that hour gone?
Goodness
really quick,
me.
isn't it?
I know.
Totally.
It's always the why though. We'll have to have you back again another night, Mark.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been really good, guys. Thank you very much for inviting me. And,
No worries. It's been a pleasure listening to you. For what we've actually heard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we need to get your tech sorted, I feel.
Yeah, Kerry's the one for that. She's amazing with tech.
Oh, I don't know about that. Build me up on that one. I've just told everybody I'm crap at it.
That was paranormal tech. We're talking about microphones now.
That's true.
Oh dear. Anyway, thanks everyone that's been in the chat room. I hope you really enjoyed tonight, and thank you, Kerry, as well for joining me as always.
Always welcome.
Brilliant. And we shall see. Do you know what we've got for next week?
Yeah, tomorrow night on Haunted Histories, we've got the Doncaster Air Museum with Penny G. Morgan. Now, she's suffering from a really bad cold, so we're seeing how she goes for tomorrow. But she should be fine. I'm sure she'll be fine. Our Penny, she's made of stern stuff.
Absolutely.
And on Thursday night, we've got the KTPF Reload Show. I'm waiting to hear the guest on that one. And on Friday, we've got the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. And we're talking ghost animals.
Ooh.
Included, we might even have a look at Geff the Talking Mongoose, being as that's been a thing in my life recently.
Yeah.
And then I know. And then on Sunday, I am talking to Dark Arts Paranormal on the Spirit Dimension. So that's what we've got lined up for the rest. So I was organised this week. Did you notice?
Very, very organised. Well done. I might have to join you and talk about the animals. That's going to be interesting one, that is.
It is
Friday.
fascinating because I always thought it was more pets, like dogs and cats and horses, that kind of thing. But looking into it, I've even found a haunted rabbit, a haunting of a rabbit.
Wow.
I know. And I was talking to a guy called Nick White in America, and he witnessed, and I found this very incredulous at the time when talking to him, ghost cows.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Makes sense.
So we're exploring the spirit animal topic.
Excellent. I know when they talk about the Rainbow Bridge with the animal, like when an animal dies, they go onto the Rainbow Bridge. That's a Viking
tradition.
Tradition, yeah.
Yeah. But we only generally talk about that with animals that humans have bonded with.
Yeah.
And I know, like, farmers might bond with cows, possibly. But
we all like a cow because we wouldn't have no milk.
Very strange, very, very strange set of experiences me and Mark are pulling together for Friday's show. So
it'll be a good one. I'm going to be there.
You'll love that one.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you anyway, and I shall see you all again next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.